Hello and welcome. My name is Gail Moffat and I am someone that is able to speak to God. He has chosen me to speak his words through to all of you. And so if you're interested in these words and what he has to say, don't forget to subscribe and press the bell so you can always be informed of what's going on with God. But let's without further ado, let's go to God and see what he has to say. God is saying that he is thoroughly enjoying doing this work where he speaks his words through Gail and through onto these videos. And he has observed some of the people that have been watching the videos and their astonishment at what is being said. And he says that because of this enthusiasm, he wishes to continue with his words for as long as possible, because he feels that today is about a time of coming forward and bringing about information that is important for us to understand. Today he wishes to talk about something that is very dear to his heart, and he's saying to me that when he was a young God and he first created the earth and then created man, he's saying that he had a great deal of ambitions for man, and he felt that it could be done a lot quicker than perhaps it has taken. Because he wanted man to become as an evolved race, more so than possibly achieved. And so in the early years, he found it quite difficult to deal with some of the acts of man, and he needed to try and educate man. So he made a tough decision, and it was a decision that for some people they perhaps don't like about him, but nevertheless it was a tough decision because he felt so strongly that he had to educate man to bring them to the highest level of evolvement as soon as possible. And this is when he spoke to Noah and asked him to build the ark. And of course, everybody knows the story of Noah and the ark, where people unfortunately drowned. But he wants to explain what was done to those people, so that it does not appear as bad as it perhaps does now. He's saying that when the spirit people came back to his world, of course life is eternal and life doesn't stop. It's just the physical body that has gone. And it's when they got to his world, he was able to educate them, and he spoke to them one by one, telling them about where they were going wrong and what they needed to do to change their life. Some of them went on to new lives and really excelled and took on board his words. And so the improvement of mankind was really evident soon after the flood. But some of them still sort of got stuck in their old ways, as people do today. And he says for those people, whenever they come back, he is trying to educate them and talk to them about where they've gone wrong and how they can improve. He feels today that if he had not done what he did with the ark and the flood, then man would not have reached the point that they're at today. Because although there are many situations in the world that are horrific, there are so many situations where people do good and kind and loving. And he wants to say to people that he does not regret that decision, but he certainly doesn't feel that it is ever necessary again. One of the other Bible stories that he wants to talk about is when Moses went to visit the Pharaoh, and when that happened, his mindset was about, he wanted people to be freed, and he wanted to create a nation of the Israelites, and he wanted them to be the people that he could communicate with and allow them to understand his beliefs and his ways. But he felt that the control of the Egyptians that at that time, it was so difficult for him to communicate with people because they were indoctrinated with some of the ideas of their masters and the Egyptians. And this is why he knew that he had to get them away in order to educate them that there is a God that is on their side, that there is a God that is looking after them. And so he chose Moses and, of course, Aaron and Miriam to be the family, to be the people that would go forward and take these people from the Pharaoh into the promised land. But of course, as you know, it wasn't so easy for the Israelites to be released. And he's saying to me that the Pharaoh, at many times he thought to himself that he should perhaps release them, but there were advisors around him that told him not to do this and to stand strong. And so it wasn't necessarily the Pharaoh that was standing strong, it was the advisors around him. And he listened to the advisors rather than his own instincts. Because when we're in spirit, and he's talking about himself, he's able to basically allow somebody to be impressed with thoughts and ideas. And he certainly was acting very strongly with the Pharaoh at the time. But because of the advisors around him and the numerous advisors around him, it was almost impossible. It was almost an impossible task. So each time he came forward, he knew that he had to do something that was quite strong and made a point. And he feels, again, if he hadn't have done all what he's done, then we would not have the religion today of understanding that he exists. And through Judaism, through Christianity and through Islam, we would not understand that. And so he knew that he had to release the Israelites to allow the world to know the truth of his existence. He says that he's very grateful to Gail at this time because we are now in the next stage of our involvement. And he, like the time of the flood and like the time of the Pharaoh, he needs to come close to the earth again, and he needs to educate people to show them that the path that he is laying out in front of us so that we can move forward and bring about an understanding of our new level of involvement. And without his help, none of this can be done. And so he's saying that there's going to be a lot of work that he's going to be doing closely with Gail, and he will be asking a lot of her over the coming months and the coming years. But he wants to assure all of you that he, in everything that he asks Gail to do, he has your best interests at heart. It is about helping you in your next stage of involvement. And he's drawing my hands together and he's asking me to pray. And he's saying, it is my greatest wish that I give every single opportunity to man that I possibly can, that I enable man to move forward in life, that I give them the spark of love, that I give them the emotions of goodness. If I can do that for man, then man can come forward in a giant leap, enabling them to be so much better in the world, to bring about peace, to have no more wars, to understand that life is eternal and I am your God. Amen. And so that's quite a powerful talk that God did, and really, I really loved it. I really loved it. And you know, one of the things that God has spoken to me about very early on in my communications with him is he was very concerned that some people see him as like a negative God or a bad God, and he really wants to impress on people how kind he is and compassionate and loving, and what he's doing now is just out of love for mankind. And I always say to God, this is my words to him, I thank God so many times, because can you imagine that, you know, he has had this patience and this love and this guidance throughout time, and we have reached the point where we're at. And I know that some people haven't reached that point, but a lot have. And I just think that we should be... we should acknowledge God for the loving God that we have and be thankful that he's our God. So thank you for watching, and see you on Sunday. Goodbye.